It was, just an ordinary Tuesday morning in Fairhaven, Georgia. The sun filtered through those dusty clouds as Evelyn Turner, a 63-year-old blind black woman, made her way to the community center. Her cane tapped steadily against the pavement, her lifeline in a world she couldn't see anymore, but one she sure had come to know too well. Standing at the intersection of Willow and Main, she waited patiently for the pedestrian signal to change. That's when the squad car rolled up. Officer Dale Rickman, 38, leaned out of the window, his suspicious eyes narrowing. He saw an older black woman with a white cane and, without a shred of humanity, assumed the worst.
Ma'am, what's in your hand? It's my cane. I'm blind.
He didn't listen. In one sharp motion, he yanked it from her grasp and just like that, snapped it clean in half.
You people are always hiding something.
The crowd froze. A child screamed. A phone camera started recording. Evelyn stood there trembling, now without sight and without balance.
Do you know who my son is? Don't care. Back up before I...
But he was interrupted by, the buzz of a dozen notifications as the video of the incident rocketed across social media. In less than an hour, #Evelyn Turner was trending. And somewhere in Washington, D.C., the news popped up on a secure screen. Congressman Elijah Turner paused mid-meeting. The video looped in silence. His mother humiliated, his mother, his hero, helpless.
Get my jet. We're going home.
Evelyn's son wasn't just any politician. A former civil rights attorney, Elijah Turner, was known nationwide for his relentless fight against police brutality. Charismatic, sharp, and, unafraid to call out corruption by name. By the time he touched down in Fairhaven, hundreds had gathered outside the police department. Rickman, still unaware of the magnitude of his mistake, strolled into the station sipping coffee, until his captain stormed in.
You need to see this.
Screens lit up. Turner, flanked by national media, was giving a statement.
My mother marched with King. She taught me to love a country that didn't always love her back. But what happened to her wasn't just about race or blindness. It was about power abused and dignity denied. That ends now.
The mayor tried damage control. The police chief offered a hollow apology, but it wasn't enough. Elijah called for a federal investigation. The Department of Justice launched a probe. Rickman was suspended, then fired, but the fire had already spread further. Evelyn, once anonymous, became a symbol. She spoke at rallies. Schools invited her to talk about resilience. Her broken cane was framed and placed in the Smithsonian Civil Rights Exhibit, labeled "The Straw That Shook the System." And Officer Rickman, charged with civil rights violations and sued for $3 million in damages. He testified before a federal judge with trembling lips, surrounded by a courtroom that included 3 generations of Turners and America watching live. Elijah Turner stood in the center of a modest community hall, transformed for the evening into a sanctuary of healing. Folding chairs lined the walls, soft yellow lights dimmed so as not to overwhelm anyone's senses. The room, though simple, held weight. Stories, grief, anger, hope. This was not a press event. There were no cameras, no microphones, just people, just pain, just truth. And within that room, Evelyn Turner sat upright, her sightless eyes directed forward, the lines of age on her face deepened by experience, not defeat. She had been hesitant to come. What is the point of talking to a man who never saw me as human? She'd asked her son just days before. But Elijah had explained restorative justice, not as forgiveness, but as exposure, a mirror held up to harm.
What is the point of talking to a man who never saw me as human? You don't owe him peace, Mama, but maybe showing him who you are is the very power he never expected you to have.
Across the circle, Dale Rickman sat hunched, not in arrogance, not in the usual rigid posture of law enforcement, but in a strange, uneasy collapse. He looked smaller without his uniform. His eyes darted from the floor to the faces around him, then back down. The usual barriers, badge, belt, weapon, authority, were gone. He was just a man who had broken a blind woman's cane and didn't know how to rebuild what he had shattered. An elder from the community, Pastor Linda Mays, opened with a moment of silence. Not a prayer, just silence. to honor the pain and to respect the space. When she spoke, it was not as a mediator, but as a witness.
No interruptions, no defenses, no rehearsed apologies. Today we sit in truth.
Evelyn Turner was the first to speak. Her voice, still with a trace of Southern rhythm, carried through the room like the hush before a storm.
When I was a little girl, we weren't allowed to walk on the same sidewalk as white folks in Georgia. My mama would tell me to step off into the gutter, hold my head up, and keep moving. And when I went blind in my 30s, I thought the worst of the world had already shown itself to me. But what you did to me that day, Officer Rickman, you stripped me of something I fought my whole life to hold on to, my dignity.
The silence after her words was heavy, like fog pressing down on the room. Rickman's eyes welled, but he didn't speak. Not yet. Another voice chimed in, Ava Reynolds, a college student who had filmed the incident and gone viral.
I wasn't sure whether to keep recording or step in, but I remembered what my grandma used to say. Record the truth when no one else will write it down. I did what I could, but it still didn't feel like enough.
Others spoke too. A retired school teacher who'd been mistaken for a trespasser in her own yard. A teenage boy pulled over 3 times in 1 month for matching a description. A young officer who'd left the force after reporting misconduct and being ostracized for it. Then finally, Rickman was invited to speak.
I didn't see you. I saw you, but I didn't see you. I've been on the force for 14 years. We're trained to assess threats, act fast, control situations. That's what I told myself that day. That's what I always told myself. But watching that video, hearing your voice now, I realized I wasn't trained to recognize humanity. Not really. I didn't even know you were blind. I didn't ask. I just reacted. And I reacted out of fear, but it wasn't fear of danger. It was fear of losing control, of being challenged. And that's not your fault. That's mine.
The room was quiet again, but this time the silence pulsed with something else. Not tension, awareness, raw, uncomfortable awareness. Did you fear me because I'm black? Or because you don't know how to see people you're paid to protect?
Both, and I'm ashamed.
He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not deserve it. But he didn't deflect, and for once, that was enough. That day didn't end in hugs or dramatic reconciliations. There were no neatly tied bows, but it ended in truth. And sometimes truth is more radical than redemption. The weeks that followed saw Evelyn invited to speak at panels and forums nationwide. Her story became the heart of a campaign for reform, not just in policing, but in how society treats the disabled, the elderly, the unseen. And when it came time to present the Turner Bill to Congress, Evelyn stood beside her son on the Capitol steps, both of them cloaked not in fame, but in purpose. The proposed legislation included mandatory anti-bias training, disability awareness certification for all active law enforcement, and the establishment of an independent civilian oversight board with investigatory power. Evelyn didn't want revenge. She wanted prevention. She wanted fewer mothers raising children to fear authority, fewer sons racing against a system designed to trap them, fewer people to be hurt, silenced, or erased. The vote passed in the House by a historic margin. Even some conservatives, faced with the undeniable clarity of Evelyn's experience and Elijah's fierce, tempered leadership, crossed party lines to support it. The bill then moved to the Senate, where an emotional appeal by Senator Denise Whitmore, herself raised by a blind grandmother, helped push the motion forward. On the day the bill passed into law, Evelyn's image, standing tall with her silver cane held high, made front pages across the country. In cities from Oakland to Boston, marches were held in her honor. Blind individuals led the front lines, canes tapping rhythmically like drum beats of quiet rebellion. Evelyn didn't seek attention. When asked what the moment meant to her, she simply said, "It means somebody finally listened."
It means somebody finally listened.
Her new cane was made of titanium, forged by a craftsman who'd once made prosthetics for war veterans. He'd followed her story and volunteered to make it for her. The cane gleamed under sunlight, weightless yet strong, engraved in tiny raised braille with 3 words that had come to define her journey: grace over fear. And still, she walked alone some mornings, not as protest, but as ritual, tapping forward, guiding herself through a world that had tried and failed to make her invisible. From the crack of a cane on a sidewalk to the halls of Congress where a law would later bear her name, Evelyn Turner's journey is not just a powerful personal story. It is a mirror held up to a nation that too often chooses not to see. Across these 6 pivotal moments, we witness the anatomy of injustice, a rush to judgment, the blindness of power, and the deep-rooted disease of systemic bias. But we also bore witness to the anatomy of change, driven by unshakable grace, unwavering truth, and the undeniable strength of a son who rose from the margins to the center of the national conscience. In Evelyn, we saw resilience that refused to wither. In Elijah, we saw leadership that rose from pain, not privilege. And in their bond, we saw a blueprint for revolution, not one of rage, but of reckoning. A reckoning that didn't just confront the man who broke her cane, but a culture that has broken far more. We learned that dignity is not granted by systems, but carried by the soul. That a cane, when broken, can become a torch. And that a woman the world tried to overlook would one day lead it into better light. This story has never just been about a single act of cruelty. It has always been about a quiet force rising from beneath centuries of silence. About what happens when one voice, clear, patient, unrelenting, echoes across the chambers of power and is finally heard. We are a one-story teller where truth walks tall even when the world tries to make it invisible. If this story stirred something in you, share it, speak it, pass it on. And remember, history doesn't just happen, it's told. Stay with us. There's more to come.